knowing the value helps an owner who's not only looking to exit. Of course, that makes sense because you're needing to fit the pieces of the puzzle together when it comes to your income, beyond the business, and those types of financial things. But it also helps with your growth decisions.
You're doing $1 to $3 million in annual sales, and maybe it's at a 4X. Or somebody that's doing greater number and has systems and processes, maybe it's an 8X, but you use the 8X as your number. Well, how realistic is that?
It's incredible to be able to see what can happen when you create a business that can run without you, and what that allows you to be able to enjoy, the freedom that it creates, and the options that it gives you when you're making choices about your business. Hey there, entrepreneur, and welcome back to the Scale to Sell podcast, the business owners podcast where we help owners like you build transferable value, create more freedom, and exit on your terms. This is episode number 61, Build It Like You'll Sell It. 7 things every business owner should do, even if they never plan to sell. So Steve, one of the conversations that we have frequently with owners is this misconception that we've got to clear up, that they think that exit planning is something they do once they decide that they're going to exit their business. But in reality, we think there's a much better framework for how to view the concept of exit planning, right?
Absolutely. You should always, there's a phrase, exit planning is great business planning. Because if it's always your business was dressed up, functioning like it should be ready to go to market at any given moment. It'll be more profitable. You'll have a better lifestyle, more time to enjoy life. And just because you don't think you'll ever sell it, right? As I joke with people all the time, you're not going to run the business forever because you're not going to live forever. So whether it's handing the business off to your kids or selling it to a competitor or a third party, you should always have that because you never know. You never know. It's just going to be a better business model to function like this.
Absolutely. The things that make a business sellable are the same things that make a business scalable, more valuable, and less stressful to run.
And more profitable.
Yeah.
We all want that.
We all want that, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Really what we're talking about is the difference between, as a business owner, do you have a job where everything's dependent on you, you show up and things function because you're there to do those things? Or do you have an actual business asset that you're growing and can function without you, to have that independence and really being able to look at it as an asset that you are actively growing and could, like you mentioned, not knowing exactly what the future is going to hold, give you more options when it comes time for you to step away from that business?
Even if you love the business, and it's been said of me too, he'll never retire. Well, you never know, right? Health might change the map for you, whatever. You never know. But I'm at the phase of life where I enjoy my time off more now than I ever thought I would, right? So
and taking more of it off.
3-day weekend, 4-day weekend, 12-day weekend recently, spring break, as we're recording this, we're thinking about that. So I just enjoy it. But I still want the same income. But you got to have things, people, and processes. We've talked about this before. We're going to go through some of that again today. But just even if you don't ever plan on retiring, you typically don't want to die on the job. You want to enjoy your life while you can.
Make more, work less.
That's my
there you go.
That's my thing.
So the 7 things every business owner should build into their company, again, regardless of whether you're planning to grow it forever, although, we've talked about that, or sell it someday, whatever those options are for you. The first one that we're going to talk about is build a business that can run without you. So we've asked this question before of could you step away from your business for 30 days? But today we're actually going to frame it a little bit differently. If you took 30 days off starting tomorrow, so no prep time, no I'm going to get ahead because I know I'm going to be out. If you were out tomorrow, what are the things in your business that would break? And that question can lead you down a lot of rabbit holes. But there's a lot there that when you start looking at what is dependent on you, from decisions, sales, employee issues, customer panic, all the things, you start to realize that there's a lot more than you might have originally thought is we have to take care of this if we're going to build a system, build a business that can run without you.
I met a guy recently came in because of tax conversations. Our tax team's going to help him out. And he's in his mid-40s. He's got a couple different businesses, and he's making over $1 million a year. And he's really got it set up where he can have a life. And he goes, I go play golf a couple times a week. I do this, but he's got that. Then go down to somebody else.
Yeah.
They're working 80, 100 hours a week, and maybe they're making $1 million too. But again, can they take any time away from it? And what happens if they have to? Health issues, accidents, whatever else it might be. And so there's a difference out there. And that person that can have that business set up, and he kind of did it himself or whatever, whether it's just put people in structure and processes in place, but that's what you got to work to doing, because if not, you may be highly paid, but you have a job.
Yeah.
Because if you don't show up, you don't get paid. The business falls apart in this case.
That's where, if we're thinking about the practical side of this, like what do you do in that case? No matter where you're at, it's okay, what are the things that I on a daily, weekly, monthly basis have to be doing? What does that list look like? And then what are the ways to not only document that, because one of the dangers that we're going to talk about here later on is dependency, like key person. What happens if you are the business owner and you have all of this intellectual capital in your head? You don't even know all of the things that are just trapped up in your mind because you're the one that's always done them, but no one else knows what or how to do any of those things. You're in a pretty difficult position there. So starting by listing that out, understanding what it is that you actually do and being able to document and then hopefully delegate those responsibilities to be able to create opportunities for others to grow and develop their skills, free you up for more of the things that you should be doing, both in and out of work.
Easy thing to do is just go, I'll do it myself. They don't do it as good as I do. I'll do it myself. Okay, that's great. But
You'll be stuck there forever.
You're stuck there forever. Business is not. If you do evaluation, if we do evaluation on your business and you're the key to this, then it's just not going to be as. It's not going to be as profitable. It's not going to hold the same value of somebody that's got the systems and processes in place and/or documented.
Yeah, if the business can't run without you, it can't grow, and it certainly can't sell for top dollar. That's for sure. Number 2, know what your business is actually worth. I don't know how many times we've had these conversations with business owners who have some pretty wild guesses as to what they think their business is worth, but it's never backed up by actual evidence or support based on their specific company. It's always, well, this is what I've heard for our industry, or this is the multiple that everyone gets. Very rarely is it someone that actually knows what their business is worth because they have the information on their business, their industry at this time in the market, all of those details put together.
Somebody come in recently and they'd had a business valuation done before, $13.1 million, and it was pretty accurate. So he was going through the process. He wanted to exit.
Yeah.
But you're right. Most of them have no clue. Or if they had a valuation done, it was done years before, and maybe the business is worth more, maybe it's not.
Maybe the industry's changed. Maybe the multiples have changed.
And
many things.
What can be had, a lot of cases, you're right. The size of the business, how well ran, could be your business could trade in your situation. You're doing $1 to $3 million in annual sales, and maybe it's at a 4X. Or somebody that's doing greater number and has systems and processes, maybe it's an 8X, but you use the 8X as your number. Well, how realistic is that? And if you can't get that out of the business, what are you going to be? Are you going to be able to retire? Because that derails a lot of plans too. People's just yes, you need to have an evaluation done, no doubt about it.
Knowing the value helps an owner who's not only looking to exit. Of course, that makes sense because you're needing to fit the pieces of the puzzle together when it comes to your income beyond the business and those types of financial things. But it also helps with your growth decisions. Because when you see an owner start to understand what makes a business valuable and what drives that value forward, you start to understand and be able to prioritize using that framework. What are the things that I need to be working on in the business in order to drive that business forward? Because it's not just income. Because if it's dependent on you, then that's not transferable either. You can't build value if you don't know what drives value.
You want to know what the balance on your 401k, a brokerage account, whatever it might be, CDs, whatever you got. You're looking at the value from time to time, maybe once a day, once a quarter, once a week, once a minute. but you don't know the value of your largest asset, the business. And it's not just based on a P&L statement and how well you've done. Our sales are up this much. Yeah, but are you growing in value too? There's a difference between profitability, top line, bottom line numbers. There's the value. You need to know the value.
It's sometimes a hard/difficult lesson for business owners to learn.
Know the value, then you can grow the value. How can you grow it? And you could, I guess, but it's better to know and grow instead of just guessing.
Yeah, if you're just guessing, if you're not being intentional with it, you're going to waste a lot of time, effort, energy, resources. And when you could have been laser focused on here are the right things, and I know these are the things that are going to help drive our business forward. So number 3 is build predictable revenue. Of course, we've talked about this before, but buyers love when there's a predictable income stream. Because anytime there is risk in the business, that is decreasing what the value of it is, right? You'd be giving a discount, essentially, is what the phrase that we use for it. But when you have things in place like predictable income streams, that's one of those things where it's like, oh, like you're creating a positive for those potential buyers and increasing your exit options, which is only going to make that better for you in growth or exit.
That's why companies like, HVAC companies right now, roofing companies, lawn maintenance where they fertilize your yards. That's why those companies right now, because they have service contracts that have recurring revenue. They're going to come out. They come out and visit our house to look at the heating and or air conditioning. We have a separate agreement with somebody comes out and looks at the home generator, just because there's nothing worse than being a hurricane or a storm and the generator doesn't work.
That's when it decides not to work.
Because you assumed it was, anyway. But those kind of reoccurring revenues offer a base. And so, but not every business has the ability to have reoccurring revenue,
Yes. So being able to do that, being able to be creative in how you offer those services and the ways that you build the customer relationships all tie back to those intangible capitals that we talk about often. And again, predictability reduces risk. Reduced risk increases your valuation. And that's an important part. Yeah.
Higher multiple if you do exit.
It's great when it's on both sides. You get value added on both sides of that equation, the multiple and the sales.
And if you hand it off to your kids, it's good to have recurring revenue because it takes some pressure off of them, because most of the time you're going to finance it, and we want recurring revenue so they can pay you the money they owe you, or whatever the agreement might be, whether it's a monthly check forever or they're going to buy you out over 5 or 10 years, whatever the number is. Recurring revenue is a good thing.
Taking risk off the table. Love it. Number 4, strengthen your leadership team. So when we look at most owner-dependent companies, you see a lack of leadership depth where every decision has to go back to the owner. And you end up having just this bottleneck of things that can't get done because it all has to go through you. You don't have the leaders in place that are trusted, that have the framework, the guidance to be able to carry out different processes without your input. And so again, it goes back to the difference between hiring leaders versus just doers, just, people that you have to manage, but that you constantly have to be involved in order to get any progress done.
The top 20%, we've talked about that before. The top 20% of your team helping you make the decision, so you can constantly be working on the business, not in the business. And so an operations manager, somebody's in charge of sales, and you go, I remember when we had, at the beginning, I had to do everything.
Yep.
All right. In all my businesses, everything, including cleaning the toilets and everything. Right. And but at some point in time, you need to have a strong leadership team. I've seen companies right now that are growing really, really rapidly, and I see people that struggle to hire and retain people that are constantly stuck. They never go, and sometimes they talk a good game, but they just can't get out of their own way, and they have a problem, not with sales, not even with performing the work in their industry, but they haven't figured out how to get that key leadership team or whatever in place. Leadership team is important. And then the other ones, there's going to be some people coming and going all the time. Some people you want to go pretty quickly. You want another body. But, you got your leadership team, you got your workers out there. And then you got, again, this people just showing up for a paycheck. The leadership team is bought in. They typically are bought in. They're part of the family. You treat them like that. You reward them for success. And they typically will stay with you, and they will also take the pressure off you with your workers out there.
Yeah. Culture, compensation, like all of those things coming together and having those systems in place give you the opportunity as the founder, as the owner of the business, to be able to spend your time developing that leadership team and growing that, if you're not stuck doing the day-to-day things that are just keeping the business running because you don't have those systems in place. It's one of those higher level things of working on your business that you get to do and really helping you create more freedom, more opportunity, more income, and at the same time do something that's going to help with the legacy of the business when you are able to train and develop that talent.
When you have that situation now, and I can delegate things that I know I've micromanaged them at first, backed away a little bit. I know and trust them right now. They take care of my business as though it's their own.
Yep.
I reward them as such. And anyway, and it's not my department. Talk to whoever over in that department. That's not my role in this deal. I don't know. This is my answer a lot of times. That's not my department. So, but that came over time of building people and processes, teams.
Yeah. Great companies are built by teams, not just by the founders themselves.
Right.
Number 5, clean up your financials. So this is one that kind of has multiple benefits running through it. Because typically you see this happen. Someone gets ready to sell. They're like, okay, I want to exit. And then months later, once they've gotten everything squared away on the financial, like cleaning up the books and making sure that it's ready to be sold and all the due diligence that goes into those processes there, it's like, okay, now we can finally go through this because they didn't have those things put together. But one of the other benefits of making sure that you've got your financials in order and that you've got a clear picture of what's actually going on in that part of your business is financial clarity drives your strategic clarity. It's data that gives you the opportunity to understand, okay, where are we at in the business? What are the things that are, like the caution lights on the dashboard or, check engine light or whatever it is, gives you those things to be able to assess what do we need to do? How do we need to handle this before it becomes an even bigger problem?
You need to either have a great CPA firm. We prefer tax planning teams. You might, have a fractional CFO, somebody that deals in that business.
Yeah.
So you're out there in the daily grind of keeping your staffing out there, clients happy, equipment running, and everything else that goes along with paying the bills, inventory, whatever it might be. But you might consider a fractional CFO. And again, fractional means you use them when you want to. You can use them occasionally, but at least one time, get them up front, clean up your books, as you mentioned, because one, it'll help you become more profitable. It'll identify waste and just things that you're not doing. And if you're wanting to sell, we've had an owner recently that their CPA firm was a nightmare. I mean, supposedly a quality CPA firm, but their financials, although it was a solid business and is going to market, and I'm 100% sure it's going to sell, but the books are just a mess.
Yeah.
And so that's not a good thing. And so if you're your own CFO, maybe you're good at it, but more than likely you need to hire somebody else, in my opinion. Well, that's an expense. No, it's not. It's an investment. It's 100% investment.
Every time. And the other thing too is when you have that data, again, we want it can help drive informed decisions about the direction of your business, not just if you're looking to exit. But it's also, I think about it in terms of what does that information let our different departments know about marketing, about sales, about product development, like those sorts of things that they can learn and glean from different aspects of that financial data, of what's coming in, of how things are being done, to be able to sharpen the focus of what the company is doing as a whole. Where are we in regards to our mission of what we're doing, and how can we improve that even better?
Wasteful money, the bigger you are and the more money's floating in, it's easy just to dump money down the hole. And when the bills are being paid and you go, all of a sudden you're having an audited set of books or somebody looking over them, all of a sudden they find things. Hey, there's $100,000. Where did that go? Or this is costing you $250,000 a year in business. And so it comes back into the bottom line. One, you can put it back into your pocket, the company's pocket, or helps you sell at a higher multiple when you do exit.
For sure. Number 6 is reduce key person risk. Now, we referenced this one earlier in the episode, but it becomes a really important thing as you're growing and if you are looking at your exit options. And here's the thing, right? If you as the owner or even some other key people on your team are the ones that have the knowledge or the key customer relationship, or they're the only ones that know how to do X process or this or that, you're putting yourself, one, at a strategic disadvantage, because if something happens to them or they're no longer there or whatever the case may be, you've now lost that intellectual capital that you need in order to handle those things. But your business, if it's reliant on what you personally know and not what is available to the team as they need it, then you're limiting the transferable value of your business.
We could talk for a long time about this. So if you have a key person and you're not taking care of them, they're either going to go down the street and start their own business or become a competitor. And if they take your clients and your data, your processes, you lose value. The stat that hit me about a year or so ago that said that for every employee you lose, for an average employee, it costs you 25 to 50% of their annual salary to replace them. A key person could be over 200%. So if you're paying them $100,000 a year, it could cost you $250,000 to replace that person. I can't afford to pay them more. You can't. I'm not saying you got to pay them and give them the whole house or whatever. But I referenced earlier a business owner that I can think of that is just has a just horrendous track record. Great people, but horrendous with employee turnover. And it's got to be a fair and competitive salary. It's got and bonuses. I'm a big believer in bonuses, having some things where they can work up to. I like flex schedules for those people that have families to be able to give them some flexibility as something happens with the kids. And just anyway, it's a combination of things, and a lot of it doesn't cost extra money. But just building that team or giving people, they want to be part of a team. We've talked about this a number of times, and in some cases, giving them their lane to run in, and with, hey, you're the ultimate boss or whatever as the owner, but giving them some just, the ability to go out there and make some decisions, run their division or their department as it's kind of theirs. All right. They know it's not, everybody knows it's not, but just give them that. They want to be part of that team. So there's so much that comes into this right here. And it really, if we do a valuation of the business and there's a high employee turnover, you're going to see dramatic reduction in the price, the value of the business, and what you will ultimately get from the market if you do take it to market.
Yeah, it's red flags for potential buyers as to what's going on. Why is it that case? And what is happening every time you lose those customers, right? One, do you have those things documented? This is why we talk about standard operating procedures, SOPs, because being able to document each and every process that we do is not just about the quality control of, following the steps to make sure that we do this process right, although that's helpful from an HR and supervisor perspective. If someone's not living up to the job, you can kind of correct and, do a performance management type situation there. But it's also, if someone isn't there, you've got cross-trained staff. You've got the ability to access the information to be able to carry out those processes if someone's not there. May not be perfect at first, but you're able to learn.
It's a foundation.
Yeah, it gets you going. And again, in combination with what you were talking about with the employee benefit side and the culture that you have at the company, like those things work together to be able to produce a team that is not just based on one person or a few people, that increases risk in so many different areas.
And there's programs and AI that can make this, in the past, you'd have to type everything up or whatever. Now there's programs that can help you get it done pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. We've used them. They're great, and they're easy to share with other members on the team so that you've got all of that taken care of. The last one that we're going to talk about today, number 7, align your business with your life. This is one of those that often gets overlooked in the exit planning part when we talk about the 3 legs of the stool: business, financial, personal always gets left to the last one. But this is one where you ask a business owner, why did they start the business? And oftentimes the answers are things like they wanted freedom, they wanted flexibility, they wanted to be able to control their own destiny. And they ended up creating a job with bars around them that they can't leave. And so It's like, okay, why did you create the business in the first place? What are those values that you care for in your business, but outside of it too, with your life, the church and family and hobbies and whatever? And are you actually living those things? Have you created a business that gives you that flexibility to be able to do? Or are you just constantly stuck doing the day-to-day work of the business to where you're missing out on those things? If you don't design the business intentionally, it'll design your life by default.
I on my radio shows, seminars, workshops, online events, I tell people I'm a Christian. I share my faith, and I'm sure not everybody grabs to that, but you'd be shocked. And telling my story, my kids, my grandkids, and just my beliefs, and it lets people know a little bit more about who you are, but it does your team as well. They know who you are, and if you live up to that, as best we can, we're human, we're flawed. But I find that people are really, people have told me before, hey, I love you, sharing stories about your family or faith or whatever it might be. And so the team rallies. Not everybody will agree with you 100% on your religion, and I don't cram it down their throats. I just say, hey, here's me. Or even some cases, your political views. I'm just, I throw it out there. Here's who I am. And sometimes
I had no idea.
But sometimes, listen to my radio shows. So, but people will either relate to it, and it's brought in a ton of clients. It's probably pushed some people off, but also teammates as well. But we've had we don't have an employee turnover. I had to fire one person about 5 years ago, and that's the first one, maybe the two over the last 20 years or something. I've had to let go. Most of the time they come because we try to treat them like we talk about here.
When you get to be able to understand how you're spending your life, the hours that you have, the energy, the time, the resources, all of those things, and you're able to both grow your business in the way that you want, enjoy the life outside of work that you want, and to be able to do it as a whole person, realizing that your values at home impact your values at what's going on in work and vice versa and all of those things. It's incredible to be able to see what can happen when you create a business that can run without you, and what that allows you to be able to enjoy, the freedom that it creates, and the options that it gives you when you're making choices about your business.
I see people come up burnout or health issues, disagreement with a partner, divorce with their spouse, and all of a sudden that business that's humming along starts to crumble because their mind is on other things now.
Yep.
And sometimes it impacts the employees because there's infighting between this, that, and the other. So, and all of a sudden that what was going well because you didn't have all these things in place. So it's not just about selling the business. It's about having a better quality of life now, making more and more money to take care, not just so we can have the nicer things. That's always great and a reward, but to help other people, right? It's hard to be a blessing to other people financially if you're struggling yourself. Yeah. And so anyway, it all comes into play, and every one of those bullet points matters, and you don't have to fix them all at one time. You pick one, work on that, check that one off, onto the next. There may only be one on here that you haven't taken up, but it may be one of the most important ones on here too.
Absolutely. I'd say go to scaletosell.com/assessment if you'd like a little bit more of an opportunity to get clarity on where your business is at and what the potential is to be able to build these 7 areas into your company so you can create more freedom, build transferable value, and exit on your terms. Scaletosell.com/assessment, or click the link in the show notes below to grab the 10-question assessment for growth and exit and get your free business valuation done as well. Until next time, keep scaling.